Fairy tales are a vital ingredient in our childhood experiences. They shape our expectations, our hopes for the world, who we desire to become. But as we grow older, and sometimes even wiser, often those expectations are inverted. Instead, we see them for their flaws and their undertones. Welcome to Dark Tales. We all know the story of Pied Piper, a Technicolor man who rids a town from rats, betrayed by the townspeople, and so magically leads away everyone's kids in the same way he had with rats. It is a fable, a story told to warn of bargaining, of mistrust, and criminality. But what if we have been wrong? What if this is instead a story of a grieving man responding to the betrayal of his naivety and trust? What if the Pied Piper was never the villain, but instead the victim? This is Hamel.
In the year 1284, a mysterious man appeared in the town of Hamel. He was wearing a coat of many bright-colored cloth, for which reason he was called the Pied Piper. The piper was a sorrowful man who walked unaccompanied by all but the wind and his wooden-carved fife, drifting from town to town, leaving nothing but the whispers of townfolk to tell his stories. His arrival in Hamel was to bring peace to its people, a remedy to their ailment of plague. He came with the promises of a sweet morrow and a brighter horizon across the land. But, as is fate, it was not to be. The people took the piper's kindness and twisted their untrustworthy vines, poisoning his lungs until all that remained was the ash and tar that threatened to silence his tune. The retaliation was inevitable, for fear breeds fear and cruelty breeds double. As the piper placed the lute upon his lips once more, the moving melody was replaced with iron, and what he performed was not an expression of valor, but a demonstration of despair. That night 130 children were snatched from Hamel, lost without a final glance or a parting farewell to the lives that they were to lead. No note was ever left, no footsteps scuffed into the surrounding paths, and no piper to tell of their fate. They never returned, not piper nor children, but it is rumored that to this very day the wind whispers the names of those who had been lost. His tune of death is still laced into the brickwork of the town and pollutes the roots of the forest forevermore.
Take one red coat, add a forest, sprinkle on one small girl, a grandma, and one very hungry wolf. And what do you get? Little Red Riding Hood has been retold countless times. And what you are about to see is a brand new, charming, animated version. Like all the good fairy stories worth their salt, what at first appears innocent soon becomes sinister, twisted, and frankly horrid.
The little girl, in the red coat with the red hood, a basket over her arm containing pastries and wine, walked cautiously through the woods. Upon turning a corner, she met a wolf. To her young, innocent eyes, he appeared to her like a big, fluffy dog. And ignoring her mother's previous caution, do not speak to anyone, especially strangers, she walked up to the wolf, who inquired what she was doing in the wood.
Off to my grandmother's. She is sick.
If the wolf played his cards right, he would get 2 meals tonight, he thought.
And just how far do you have to travel to see grandmother?
Not too much further. It's the cottage at the end of the woods. You can't miss it.
The wolf pointed out just how beautiful the forest was, with all the pretty wildflowers, and how her grandma was sure to love a bouquet. And as if seeing the forest for the first time, the little girl with the red hood wandered off the path. Transfixed by the flowers, "Don't stray from the path," her mother's words disappeared with the wind. don't stray. Meanwhile, the wolf ran to the cottage, and pretending to be the old woman's daughter, entered the house, snatching the little girl's grandmother up and swallowed her whole. The wolf then proceeded to put the old woman's clothes on and get into the bed to wait for the little girl in the red hood. Each time the little girl with the red hood picked a flower, it was as if another prettier one appeared a few steps over, and before long she became lost and began to panic. She wandered around, desperately trying to find the path again, but the sun was now set and the night was growing darker, and the forest took on terrifying shapes. The little girl, beginning to give up hope, began to cry, vowing that if she could just find her grandmother's cottage, she would never stray from the path again. And as if the forest was listening to her, she saw the clearing in the woods, and the lamp in the front porch shining from her grandmother's house. Wiping away her tears, she ran to the house, not stopping until she was safely inside. The little girl headed into the bedroom, but her grandmother didn't appear at all as she remembered.
What big ears you have, Grandma.
The little girl said.
Why, all the better to hear you with, my dear.
What big eyes you have.
All the better to see you with, my dear.
But oh, what sharp teeth you have.
Why, all the better to eat you with.
The wolf growled, and the little girl screamed as he gobbled her up, red hood and all.
Here at Dark Tales, we hope you're enjoying our celebration of the weirdness of fairy stories and how they can be constantly reinterrupted and reimagined. There are tropes you will find in many of the tales: princesses, magic, evils, and forest, to name just a few. But what if someone were to actually step inside a fairy tale? So what if that person started to ask questions to, well, the enchanted forest? To question the old and the mysterious.
Some might wonder, why enchanted forests? The setting of so many fairy tales, filled with life and mysteries from its paths up to its branches. Poisonous fruits and stories of the past always waiting for the next soul to creep into its woods. Furthermore, in that late evening, the forest would be visited by a very peculiar boy. He didn't seem lost or hiding, just sitting in a tree, reading calmly below the sheets. The forest was intrigued by the frustrated looks that the boy presented. Something was disturbing him, a curiosity that was stopping him from enjoying the reading. Suddenly, he decides to rise and advance towards one of the trees, leading the boy to confide to the old and mysterious. For the first time, a person directly approached the forest itself, claiming that he was looking for answers that only the subject could provide, declaring there was one conundrum that he couldn't die before solving it. Why enchanted forests were so common in so many tales?
That is a question with you do.
Not familiar with taking questions, the forest answers very vaguely that it was an appealing place for many juvenile souls. But, unsatisfied, the boy keeps insisting on the question, accusing of only receiving portions of the truth.
I represent all that the civilization is not. Mysterious, uncontrollable, unlimited. I provide all the needs for the story. The rules of the forest are my own. But although beautiful, I'm also the home for many dangers, filled with trickster foxes and hungry wolves.
As the weird noises start to amount, the scared boy asks if it is safe where they are.
I am safe as it is convenient for the arc of one's journey. I serve as a treacherous place, as also the greatest refuge.
So you're just a storytelling device?
I am more than a device of tales. I am their heart and soul. I am the judge who tests and separates the weak-minded from the gifted ones. Lucky who came out at the top gains the opportunity to be a better person, and the one who fails serves as a reminder to the reader. As I said, I am an agent of transformation for those who enters my paths, and everyone who enters can't ever be the same.
Spooky. I'm afraid that is all we have time for. Thanks for watching, and I sincerely hope that you and everyone you know lives happily ever after. Goodbye, and don't get